I'm privileged to be here and to put things straight. I'm not a researcher primarily. I have spent 40 years as a healthcare worker, 100,000 patient consultations, and my formal specialties are in general practice family medicine. I've been a hospice doctor and worked in geriatrics. And actually in geriatrics was where I first got my interest in Parkinson, because I saw several people with dementia that could barely walk. When they got music with the right rhythm, they could dance perfectly. And then in '91, I came across the work of Michael Taut, who was researching Parkinson and gait. And he had some publications where he demonstrated convincingly that this could improve gait. And I was seeing Parkinson patients and having very inadequate resources to work on them. So the Parkinson Union asked me some years ago to collaborate, and this is not hardcore research, it's the softcore part of medicine. Because in working with patients, I've seen that we have on the one side the disease treatment model, which is advancing rapidly in my time, but we also have the wellness, the coping side, which has been at my heart to advance. And I've also been interested in how creative and cultural activities and also exercise can improve the plight of patient groups like Parkinson. So I'm an advisor to National Competence Center for Culture, Health and Care Sciences, and the Norwegian Parkinson Union has invited me now to collaborate on a new project for self-care focused on exercise. My PhD is actually in a program in improving care for deep dementia in nursing homes. And in this project I also uncovered a large group of late-stage Parkinson patients who were not getting adequate treatment. They were, when they were hallucinating, they were given neuroleptics, which do ameliorate some of the hallucinations, but they also have the side effect, as you know, they block the motor pathways. So I will call your attention to this very important area, the late stage. I will have a few words about that. The rationale for using rhythmic impulses in training lies, for instance, in the new findings that I've collaborated with in Colorado State University, that if you focus on the rhythmic aspect of music, you will get more of the impulses down towards the brainstem. Where you have more of the memory, the feeling side, you will get more of the limbic system and the right lobe. And if you have more the like classical, jazz parts of music, the activation veers more towards the frontal lobes. There's been a good bit of research on exercise. I'll call your attention to neuroplasticity. There's a lot of publications filling out the blanks in this area. And there's also several interesting clinical studies. We are now in Norwegian Parkinson Union investigating falls, and we are investigating Tai Chi because, as you know, I'm sure that the one predictor that's most dire for the development of Parkinson is the falls frequency. And this is an aim in itself. And there's a large study, multi-center study, which showed increased stability and reduced incidence of falls with Tai Chi training. The music research also had its advanced even back in the 70s when Rossignol and Melville Jones found that the reticular system actually responded to rhythmic impulses. This has been advanced by Michael Taut towards using rhythmic-based music. And there's been several publications. I've also published in Norwegian some of my own findings, where rhythmic auditory stimulation, finding the right rhythmic impulse improves gait in the short term. I'm going to speak about a project where we investigate the effect in the long term. The cueing part of rhythmic metronomic impulses in music also uses the auditory motor pathways through all of the brain. And actually the auditory nerve converges straight into the brainstem and works on the reticular pathways. And when the right rhythmic impulse comes, this increases the strength of the impulse. It's also the alarm system, so that the noise or the wrong rhythmic impulse can actually aggravate or hinder the impulse flow. The spinothalamic reflex is well known in everyday life. You are in a conversation and suddenly, while talking, you find your foot is tapping. And this is actually found to be from the limbic system, especially the thalamic response to when emotions and rhythm combine. If we look at the practical aspect, I would just I wanted to show you some videos from to see how this relates into practice. Here you have a Parkinson patient. He has problems with the gait, and he can walk faster, but he freezes, and he's also afraid of falling. So he does not participate well in exercise programs. And you see he's lost the diagonal impulse, which increases the false tendency. And what I do is then I introduce now a simple rhythmic auditory stimulation through metronome, where I always start a bit lower than the intended frequency of impulses, because if you start too high, you stress the patient and they will freeze. So I start slow here, and I see if he responds to the metronome. And I also stop the metronome to see if there's a carryover effect. And as you can see, there's both a satisfactory response, motor, to the metronome, and some carryover effect when the metronome stops. Are you with me? Yes, and then we go on the third. We increase the speed gradually into a rhythm that's more into the normal area, between 90 and 120 beats per minute. Gradually, he gets more into the groove. And if you notice here now, do you see? This is where he, I don't know if you caught it, but the last second there, did you see what happened? I play it again, yeah. See here, once you get a second chance, that's a good thing about life, we always get a second chance. And watch well when we get towards the end of the clip. That's where the catch is. We gradually increase now, step by step. Two things happened. Did you see the two things happening? Yeah. He retrieved the diagonal. He comes from here and he goes back into the diagonal. One other thing? He smiles. I'm back. And then the fourth one, it's a fairly bad video, but you can see this. Can you see? He's retrieved his normal gait. And the sound in the back is the wife coming with exclamations of wonder. Is this really him? That's my old husband. That's my husband as I knew him. So this is actually a reproducible effect. I've taught this to healthcare workers all over Norway, and they are actually through this gait training getting the same effect in rhythmic auditory stimulation as myself and Professor Taut. If you look at studies, they've done small studies themselves. But this is very precise, because if I don't hit with the metronome, here I go a bit too fast, and you can see this. She does not hit the metronome, and this is a Parkinson patient who has a fall tendency. She falls to the left. She's been to the hospital with damages from falling twice in the last month, and then I take down the metronome 2 beats a minute. You will probably not even notice the difference. And there, this lady was afraid of falling. She stopped exercising, vicious circle. And with the metronome and the metronomic rhythm, she retrieved the confidence in training. She walked with the metronome, and she could walk without falling, just getting the right rhythm. 2 beats per minute is the whole difference between falling to the left and keeping steady. So that's the precision. I'll show you another one here from one of my pupils, students who misunderstood this. The starting problems, getting up from chairs, getting into cars. This is the everyday complications for Parkinson patients that really hinder them a lot. And here they are doing their best, but I will show you what they're doing wrong. They are singing here now. They are using the rhythmic auditory stimulation and getting. So, there he finally gets up. But what is wrong here? This is not the gait. We were showing the gait impulse. You can also use this for other movements, but then you have to use the cues in time and space and force. And she's using the time and the space, but the force, she's coming like bring back. You have to do like, oh, sorry. No, you're bring back my body to me. Bring back. You really have to take the force at the end. That's why this dun 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 dun. That's good for gait. Dun 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 dun. But this is not good for getting up. Because if I do the same march here for you for getting up, dun 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 da da. So this is precision. We are working so precise in. This is what bugs me, because we are working so precise on the level of precision, like surgery. When I was a young doctor assisting, surgery was on a much lower level of sophistication. We are getting more and more precise in drugs and surgery, but in exercise we've had these general concepts, and we really have to make them precise if we're going to succeed in really improving the plight of Parkinson patients. So I'll see if I have time for more of the slides, because I'm now going to recount what we've done in Norway. We are having several exercise groups now that are initiating. We do not have the funds to conduct advanced, proper research, but we've done our best, as I'll recount. We started in 2011, and we have ongoing groups, 43 patients in Levanger in Nord-Trøndelag. It's 20, and in the Oslo region we have smaller groups, and they are 23 all in all when we started. In 2015, this is interesting, I'll tell you a bit about it. In Levanger there are 23, and there are 17 in the Oslo region. And the average age is a little under 70 years old, with a large spread. about 2/3 males, and in average 5.7 years since diagnosis. And the Hun and Jar is a mean 2.2 at start. One exercise meeting per week, 1 hour duration. So the exercise principles were based on what I learned, that either the exercise programs were fixed, and then you had a large attrition rate. I had groups with physiotherapists where 2/3 dropped out within half a year, because it was either too high demands or too low demands, and there was no dialogue. And the free approach to exercise, just do what you feel or go to the training center, also makes the patients confused. So we made a clear structure of the program when we started, built on research that you need to move all the big joints each day, and you have to have movement stabilizing in the sagittal plane and the frontal plane and transversal rotations. Those 3 principles have to be followed. And we started with 45 minutes of movements. The patients were tiring, they were stiffening up and getting more tremors, so compliance was going down. And so we inserted voice exercises in the middle of the training and relaxation at the end. And then we got a complete compliance. The exercises were 14 vertical, 12 horizontals. They got DVD and instructions, like here in the neck joint and you know, the rotator cuff. They really love this because one of the factors that really hinder a lot of the patients is they stiffen up in the rotator cuff. They get difficulties, so we rotate here rhythmically. And we planned a controlled study, but the control group, we got the control group, the ones who wouldn't want to participate. We couldn't get them to turn up, actually. So we had too large attrition, so we just dropped it. But we did follow the control group. This is the interesting thing. We have a follow-up because in the local community, we know where they are, even if they don't turn up. And can you guess where they are? They are by now in nursing homes. The people who drop out. This is a very interesting. Keep this in mind. We had mixed evaluation methods because we wanted to see both from the quantitative and the qualitative angle what happened to them. So we measured them. We measured them once a year with Hun and Jar, UPDRS, the cognitive motor ADL, PDQ-39, this fear of falling, FES1, time up and go, and the senior fitness, the knee elevation. And also on the mental emotional, the Montgomery-Åsberg depression rating scale, the Hurt Hope Index. And we also had a self-rating of motivation. And we worked with Torus excursion. I'll drop that. We also have followed interviews, semi-structured, and we've done video analysis, and they have done peer group analysis of each other to help each other. And we also have a professional group where we discuss what happens to muscular balance, etc. So preliminary results now after 4 years. The groups are ongoing. The general mobility has been stable, measured by time up and go, the senior fitness. The UPDRS, there's a slight decrease. We have done statistics like ANOVA, it's a small number, but the decrease is non-significant. There are some of the patients who are actually improved. One of them runs the New York Marathon, and we were doing a large Norwegian race together with him, and a couple of other people have a larger decrease in the UPDRS. There's a discrepancy between the objective tests, the FES1 and the subjective evaluation. They have not increased frequency of falls, but they have an increased fear of falling. The pain and fatigue is actually reduced. One thing that we have talked a lot about is that In studies on Parkinson and depression, the rates are on the average like, correct me if I'm wrong, up to 40%. I've seen figures from 20 to 50%. Here we have, we had an incidence, only 2 of the participants had clinical depression when we started, and now there's only 1 who goes into areas where he goes up to Montgomery-Åsberg like 18, 19, but he has the depression from his youth. So this is really striking, the low frequency of depression. And also the Hurt-Hope scale gives excellent indications, and the mental part of PDQ 39. The voice exercise program, when we introduced that, we had several of the participants who were getting weaker or more slurred speech, and this has stabilized voice function. Yes, points to notice: the attrition is prevented when the program is adjusted, accommodating to the individual. After 1 year, several of the participants were about to stop in the group, but then I came to the group and I took each one by one and designed a program. One had an increased frequency of falls, and we introduced a specific program. We are actually now hoping, I saw you were from the Karolinska, we are actually hoping to collaborate now at the Karolinska. They're doing a study now to evolve exercise program to prevent falls. I haven't been able to see the concrete exercises, but I'm very excited to see if our findings on the exercises correspond to what they find in the research group in Karolinska, where we have one arm over in our project at Sunnaas Rehabilitation Hospital in the Oslo region. So this is a very important research movement, I think. So that we actually prevented falls in a number of individuals when we could adjust exercises. And also one patient who's very advanced in the disease has been able to collaborate when the level of exertion has been adjusted to his level. Interviews show that group participation improves well-being and motivation, and all groups that I've interviewed emphasize the importance of really giving a group offer to Parkinson patients. And as I said, the non-participants, they've had a really rapid progression of symptoms during these 4 years. There remain, this is not a hardcore finding. It's more like in the Bible, the one that them that's got shall get, them that's not shall lose. But still, I think it's a really, to me, it's a big task for the future to really be able to see how we can find these persons who are not now the enthusiasts and the non-participants and engage them. This is my plans for the future, actually. And another thing, a sore point, I saw that individual variations in progressions, they are linked to the degree of home training. The marathon runner, he's actually better after 4 years. He trains every day. The ones who only train during the week, it's logical. They go train during the week, then they go home, they go to the bathroom, they go to the refrigerator. They don't do like that. And this, we really have to train the patients to teach them large movement, fine motor movement, large motor movements, train the voice. They think they are speaking normal voice. You can barely, it's very audible. You have to really train them to articulate. Do the voice exercise at home training. This is where this study has not succeeded enough, but that's the next point. We really need to strengthen home training. So, now the conclusion, I'll be fast. Rhythmic exercise stabilizes gait, mobility and flexibility, and it may decrease pain, fatigue, prevent falls. And we need to be flexible but clear, and group training is important. And the strikingly low incidence of mental, emotional symptoms may be linked to an group exercise program, which is important to get the non-participants to also be involved in. So I have some more videos, but my time is up, so I will open for if there are any responses. Yeah.